Okay, so yet another little rows video, this time talking about passing parameters around, how that's done. Yeah, so let's get started. And I've done like a little basic setup here. Let's just draw something on screen. So you can see here, drawing a green circle. And that in itself is fine, but say we wanted to, for example, we wanted to draw a line that's 100 pixels long. Let's we start by declaring, or forking a turtle. Let's call this line drawer. Down here we declare what or do we define? I'm not a programmer. Down here we define what this little turtle should do. And at the moment it does nothing. It does exist, but it doesn't do anything. So if I paste this in here, then it'll be drawing it again. So now there's the main turtle, which jumps to 50x 50y position, and then it forks this new turtle called line drawer, which does this one thing. It draws a size 10 pixels. I guess that's radius. Tint 1 circle. Okay, so we want to draw. We don't want to draw a line that's 100 pixels long. So I would do it this way. Define two numbers. This is the starting number, 0. This is the 100 pixels that we want to achieve. And then the way that you pass variables around is that you have to sort of declare them down here. So just to make that painfully obvious how that works, here's the screen grab. So this and this become these two. What do you call these? Parameters, I guess. So that's the way that it works. When you fork a new turtle, you can pass, or you can state any number of parameters. You could also give it an x position here and a y position and whatever else. And all you would have to do is then remember to declare these as parameters once you fork, when you define what the turtle line drawer, what that has to do. Then this would then be x pos, y pos, max I, and you could access these values by using I and max I, etc. And why is that a good idea? Well, obviously, I mean, it's just kind of like using variables. So for example, let's say that we had another parameter called size here. We could then say, or actually, okay, let's not call it size. or okay, let's call it size. Let's see what that does. Yeah, it gives an error. Obviously, because size is a keyword inside rows, so that won't work. But let's just call it s instead then. And now the size of this circle is defined by this 10, which is passed down to this s parameter, which I am then using to indicate, okay, the size should be s. So if I change this to 1, then it'll be a small dot. 3, 4, 5. And obviously the benefit of this is that then you can use this in more places. So for example, you could do something like this. So now there's 2 using the same size. You could also manipulate it by saying stuff like this, for example. or adding divisions, or adding division, or dividing it, doing stuff like that. Yeah, and back to the original task of this actually was to make this draw a line that's 100 pixels long. So I'm going to do like a little check. So say when I is less than max I, so when this counter is less than 100, draw, move 1 pixel, wait, or actually let's not do the wait. Fork, done. So now this is going to fail spectacularly because I forgot to include this S. Whenever you fork it, you have to remember to include all the parameters, which it also says here in the terminal. Wrong number of arguments for procedure line draw, 2 given, 3 expected. So if I put the S in, that should work again. And it does. Okay, but now it doesn't show the line being drawn because there's no wait in this. Again, this is how it works, that you fork the new turtle here. So you start the new turtle here with these 3 parameters. Then the turtle is described here. It does this, and then the turtle dies again. So the turtle just runs this little when loop all at once, which is why it's done in 1 frame. So you can't see it being drawn. But instead, if I wait 1 frame between each loop, then you should see it being drawn nice and easily. Okay, and obviously, if I change this, then it'll be a longer line, and if I change 20, it'll be a shorter line. And now let's say we wanted to do something else. Let's say when I is not less than max I, let's say jump x plus, or x, y plus 50, fork, line drawer, 0, 50, 2. Let's see what that does. Okay. Or we can jump back to 50 here if we wanted to. And now we've got a little procedure that draws more lines, because every time this is fulfilled, it'll jump onto the next. And now I've told it to use 0, 50, and 2, which then become I, max I, and S. Okay, I don't know if this is going totally overboard in the explanation department. But going back to this, then the 0 becomes an I, so 100 becomes a max I, and this is the S. This, when I fork the turtle again, then this once again becomes the I and the max I and the S, because that's how this turtle line drawer turtle, that's how that's defined. This is how this works. Okay. And then coming back to the initial sort of topic of this video, which is passing parameters around. Let's say I didn't want this to be 50. I don't want to hard code it. I want to draw it so that it draws a line that's half as long every time this this condition happens. Then I could say max I times, divided by 2. So that should, if this works, if I didn't fuck anything up, let's see. Okay. Looks like I did fuck something up. Let's just try it anyway. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm not sure why that's bollocking stuff up, but let's just check it out. Okay, so this works again, but the max I is 100, so it should work if I just say max I. Yes, it does work, and I should be able to perform an operation on it as well. So now I'll say times 0.75, and that should mean that it every time becomes becomes 25% shorter, which does not seem to work for some reason. That's interesting. Okay. Let's try and get around that by declaring a temp, which is kind of like a variable. So let's say new max I is equal to max I times 2, or sorry, divided by 2, and this will become new max I. Does that work then? Will this work? I'm really curious about why this is causing an error. I can't really see why it should, but let's try and run it like this. So it does work. Okay, how about if it's just -10? That also works. So now it becomes 10 pixels shorter every time you do this. But divisions are not allowed. And times 0.1, that also causes it to fail. Okay, I'm really kind of stupefied about why that doesn't work. But interesting. But anyway, this works, and then the line sort of places out gradually. But I'm just going to turn on this. Okay, let me just lighten that background a little bit. I'm going to turn on this little visualizer here, and you can see that down here there's a little blue line, and that shows that the turtle is actually still drawing, because there's no end condition for this. It just keeps on doing this. It goes from 100 to 75 to 50 to 25 to 0. So ideally, I guess I could wrap this in yet another condition, just saying when max I is larger than 0, do all this, and if not, then don't do anything. I'll just try and run this. Okay, and then that kind of kills it. Yeah. Okay, but I hope this little tutorial has given a bit of information about how declaring parameters and passing parameters around works in rows. Basically that you start by forking a new turtle. So this is kind of telling rows, I want a new turtle. That's what fork means. The new turtle should be called line drawer, and it's going to have these set values, or not set values, but it's going to have these values to play around with. You then further down define, okay, fine, we have the turtle, it's called line drawer, and you declared 3 values, these are internally inside the turtle going to be called I, max I, S. These are used various places inside the routine. You could also add a tint. Like for example, we could say that this should be 2, and you would then have a t parameter. You could say that this was tint t instead of 1, and then you could control the color from here. Then down here we are making a new parameter called new max I, using this temp. Temp means that it's kind of it's limited to inside this little scope here. That's where you can access the temp. And here we declare a new parameter called new max I, which is equal to max I. So again, we're kind of taking this 200 down here. Minus 25, so it means that new max I is going to be 175, obviously. Then we do our little thing. Fork the line drawer with this value, and here's actually something that I think is kind of cool. That here you once again fork the line drawer turtle with these 3 values. Let me just undo all of this scribbliness I've been doing. So down here you fork it again, and new max I, we just set that value. That's 175 because 200 is the max I minus 25. And then we down here fork the turtle again. We fork itself with the value of 0, new max I, i.e. 175, and 2. So 2 is the brush size. And that's kind of cool, I guess, because then then this new max I, that migrates up here. Oh, sorry, up here. If you get my drift, this new max I, it has a value of 175. So when you fork the turtle again, you go back up here. And then these values are going to be 0, 175, and 2. And the next time around, then obviously this is going to be different, because then this is going to be, oh, okay, now we're drawing it with white. And this next time this is going to be 175. So then new max I is going to be 175 minus 25, so 150. And then once we fork the new turtle, this is going to be 0, 150, and 2. Then the whole thing sort of repeats itself, that now you have a line drawer with 0, 150, and 2. And then this becomes 125, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So yeah, there's some interesting possibilities, I think, with this passing variables around stuff. And yeah, I hope you got a little bit out of this probably quite confusing little rows tutorial. I really like doing these video things because it don't know, I just like messing around with rows, basically. I think I'm an artist, a designer, and not very confident with programming at all. But this little sort of turtle graphics language, I think, has really given me don't know, a better understanding about some stuff, because it's visual, it's really easy to get the hang of. So yeah, I just like messing around with it, and making these little video tutorials, I think for me is just also a great way to maybe make a bit more explicit and consolidate the stuff that I've learned from asking Blueberry a lot of questions, and from reading the manual, and from just experimenting a whole lot with it. It took me a little while to get the hang of things, but it's starting to work out now. So yeah, thanks. If you did watch this, I doubt that very many people will. It doesn't really matter. I had fun making this. So yes, thanks for watching, or thanks for not watching. Bye.